This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Cindy Lee about The Last Ranger. How are you, Cindy?
Hi, I'm good. I arrived in New York yesterday from South Africa, so I'm just acclimatizing, but so far so good.
Wonderful. Can you tell me about the true story behind this film and how you learned about it?
Well, my brother wrote the screenplay actually, and we went to school. He went to school with a vet, a friend of his called William Folds, who was a vet. He is a vet. And in 2012, three rhinos were poached on a farm in the Eastern Cape, and he was the vet at the scene who was there to try and save the rhino. And he was able to save one rhino, and that's Tundi, and that is the rhino that we feature in our film. And since 2012, she was in it says at the end of the film that she was pregnant 5 times. Now she's just fallen pregnant for the sixth time. So we all like proudly, loving this rhino who is they've managed to save. So that's how we found out about Tundi and who she is. Yeah.
So, how does the film, which is obviously somewhat fictionalized, diverge from what actually happened?
Well, I mean, really, the film, I think the footage that we use in the film is Tundi, and the whole idea of what happens is really is fiction. But Tundi herself surviving and how people come together to try and save a rhino is based on is kind of what we're trying to tell a story around. Although that itself with the little girl and um, the the ranger didn't actually happen, but it could have happened. I mean, these women do put themselves on the front line to try and save the rhinos every single day. I mean, as you saw at the end of the film, 1,000 rhinos, poachers, sorry, 1,000 rangers have already lost their lives trying to save them. Um, and in communities in South Africa, we are trying to tell a story to reach communities because what happens is it's very true where mothers leave the kids behind and they go out to work, and then the kids are raised by the grandmothers. And because this happened during COVID, all the lodges were closed down. So the dad had no other form of income during that period. So he really had to take on this job as much as he didn't want to, and that is something that happens a lot in South Africa. And it's getting really bad now because all the organized crime syndicates will follow these guys and make sure that they keep working for them once they get them in. So it really is something that is getting worse in South Africa all the time.
Uh, was there any sort of trauma involved with, filming and having to recreate some of these, like how
Yeah.
did, especially
Yeah.
with
How long
Tundi?
have we got? You know, it was really because we used we used two live rhino to work with on the day, and Dr. Folds himself was with us, so he had to get up really early in the morning and go and track the rhino, and then they did actual procedures on the rhino. They did not dart them just for us, and because we shot during COVID, those lodges were actually closed down. Part of the money that we raised when we made this film was to enable them to do those two procedures on the rhinos. So one, I think they checked her tracker, and then on the other one, they had to see if she was pregnant. So what happened is they got up like 3 o'clock in the morning and they tracked the rhino. We found the rhino. We went to where they were. Then we darted the rhino. We filmed the darting of the rhino. Then we tracked them again to see where they fell down, where they went down. But because we used the real footage of Tundi in the video camera, I had to try and get those rhinos down somewhere that looked similar to the footage on the video camera, which also, if that didn't happen, I couldn't use it. And on the one day, the rhino fell down on the wrong side, like her feet were facing the wrong direction. So we got 18 people to help us pick her up, move her around, put her down again. Then we had 20 minutes. And I think about 8 of those minutes we used for the procedures, and we had 12 minutes left each day. One day was with the little girl, one day was with the poachers. And the first time this happened, everybody was so emotional. I mean, the vet was crying because it just brought all these memories back when that chainsaw came out. I was crying. Everyone, so we just lost another 4 minutes with us all trying to get ourselves into a space where we were able to shoot with these rhino. And then, of course, when we were finished, they woke up and walked away, which was very emotional for a lot of people for a lot of other reasons as well. So there was a lot, and I'm working with a little girl who's never acted before, but she was the least of my problems. She was an absolute incredible gift, that child.
I
Yeah.
know people joke about, not working with animals
Animals
and
and children,
children,
I
but
know.
I feel like, this is a different, more extreme example where it is very critical to the experience viewers will have, but also
Yeah.
very hard to predict how they'll behave.
Yeah. It was absolute, but I really feel that we had somebody was guiding us, something, because we got the rhinos on the day we needed to. We managed to get them down where we wanted them to, and we had one or two takes with each scene and we had to move. We shot this film in 4.5 days. So yeah, it was tight.
Have any concerns about making the film that there might be, pushback, especially from just elements who didn't want this kind of film made?
Not really. I mean, no, no. Oh, you mean in terms of the bigger syndicates? No, no, not really. I don't think they're, no. Because also the film is really, because it's a narrative and because there's so much more to the film than just the poaching. It's a story about a little girl's coming of age, and it's about the relationship that she has as a kind of a motherless child and a motherless ranger. So there's a lot of other things happening, and there's a lot of films and documentaries made in South Africa about rhino poaching because the devastation is so severe. We're doing everything we can to stop it. So no, that was never an issue. I think it was more the lions in the reserve that were an issue. There was one somewhere apparently, and one day we were filming.
What kind of responses has this film gotten at home in South Africa?
Oh, that has made me more proud, Abe, than anything else. South Africa, we are the things we're most passionate about normally are sport. And when the South African, when our rugby team, the Springboks, win the World Cup, the country, it has united our country like never before. And this is doing the same thing. I am completely overwhelmed by the response that we're having in South Africa. People, everybody has got behind this film. And I think it's because it's an isiXhosa film. It's made in one of the languages. It's on location in the Eastern Cape, which not a lot of films have been shot there before. So everybody who lives there sees it and realizes that it's a true indication of what is going on. They are being seen, they're being heard, um, and the film is just elevated. I mean, our Minister of Arts and Culture even posted about how excited he is about this film and how South Africa is behind this film. And it could change our film industry. It could really make such a big difference to a really struggling industry in South Africa, as well as what it could do to help the rhino. So, no pressure to bring back anything other than a nomination.
What kind of responses have you gotten from the greater world? Has anything really surprised you about that?
Yeah, to be honest, I think my biggest surprise, first of all, was that we got, first of all, when we were made the long list of 180, we didn't win at any of the big festivals. We didn't even get into any of the big festivals. We didn't have a name attached to our film, um, a big EP producing it. So it was like, how we even made it from 180 to 15. We were all so surprised. And then when the nominations came out, I think we were at 70 to 1 or something to get through. So we really weren't expecting it to get through. So, I mean, that aside was just absolutely, I think if people see the film, if they take the time to watch our film, they will love our film. And I think that's what started happening at the end. What people were obviously talking about it and people were watching it, then people start voting for it. But for me, because before we were nominated, I flew myself to LA just to get involved with all the screenings as a shortlisted film because I wanted to experience it as a director in case we never went any further. And it really surprises me how few people realize what is happening in South Africa. That was my biggest wow. You mean they didn't even know that these animals were being poached, never mind one every 15 hours is being killed. So for me, what this nomination has done is it has exposed this to a global scale. And I'm really hoping that it's going to put more pressure on our government to do something about what is happening. Because if our government doesn't bring in stricter rules, then these poachers are going to keep getting away with this, and then it will never stop.
I think the visibility is definitely important for this film, and it's great that it got nominated for an Oscar. Have you had a chance to see any of your fellow nominees? Is there any story that really sticks out to you as particularly powerful?
Yes, I mean, I really do. I've seen three of the others, I think, and I think they're all absolutely amazing, amazing films. And the one that I'm that I mean, I think they're all great films. I don't want to pick out any specific film, but yeah, I have seen a few of them.
Well, I know that you've also done some, directing of television in the past, and you made this film, this impressive film in 4.5 days. Do you have plans for a feature in the future and this kind of story to revisit again?
Yeah, I mean there is definitely talk about how do we make this, because this was originally written as a feature film, and then when it was pitched, when David took it to Will and Darwin from 6 Feet Films, obviously they were only making shorts at the time, so they all worked on making it a short script. So we would very much like to make this a feature film. I think it's an important story. There's a lot more to it now than what we extricated from it, which is the relationship between the two of them. As I spoke about, it's the whole socioeconomic issue around poaching in South Africa. Um, so yeah, it could make an amazing feature film. So we're very excited about the prospect. There's definitely talk around that. We've had a
And
few
it,
interesting conversations.
and it sounds like based on the national response, it's something that would be wholly supported by a lot of people.
Very, very, very much so. South Africa relies on tourism as one of our main sources of income, the mining and a few other things. But if tourism dies, South Africa is going to be in a lot of trouble. And a lot of people come to South Africa to come to our game farms to see the big five, to see all the animals there. And, what really makes us nervous is that if the rhino does become extinct, then they're going to go after other things, and it's going to be the elephants next. And, if there's such an easy access to making money off our wildlife, then it's going to keep going. So we need to preserve this wildlife. We need to, and that's why we're doing so much work in South Africa with this film. It's going to all the schools, it's going to all the communities around all the game lodges. Everybody wants to get involved. Everybody's asking for the film. They're asking us to come and do Q&As so that we can educate the youth as to the importance of protecting the wildlife, and to the community, so that they understand that if they don't, especially the communities that work around those lodges and in those environments, if the wildlife disappear, it's so much more is threatened than just the rhino. Yeah, so we're doing a lot of that. It's been
Well, I
busy.
appreciate that this film is more than just a film, and that it really is a big social action issue. And I wish you plenty of luck with whatever comes next with it. Thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Abe. I really appreciate it. Lovely to meet you.